We're starting with levy. Okay, so I handed out 2 other documents regarding the levy, and then there was a third included with the actual packet, and then you guys have the resolution as well. So first, in general, the resolution that you guys see before you, it's to put out basically a stagnant property value levy. So basically this just means over the course of a 4-year period, we wouldn't be increasing the amount levied based upon increased property value, so it's stagnant, okay? Of the amount of $5,758,086. This equates to, in the year 2020, based upon estimated property values from Mason County, a $2.36 per thousand levy rate for the EP&O levy. Okay, so now I'm going to delve into more of the details.
Wait a minute. Let me just throw a few things in
Okay.
there. So she said it was a stagnant rate, and you'll remember last time when we did our 4-year levy, we were very deliberate in choosing to keep the levy amount the same year to year so that our voters could count on that total amount. That was a deliberate choice by our board, and that is the same thing we would be doing again. I also want to point out that the $236 per thousand rate is the same rate that we asked for and got approved in 4 years ago in the last two
levies have been at the 236 per thousand rate.
So we would be asking for a 4-year 236, 236, 236, 236.
Yes. Well,
Not
no,
necessarily.
not necessarily. It's
So, yeah.
5,700,000 4
So-
years in a row, but if property values go up, then that 236 would go down. The total dollar amount would stay the same, but the amount each of our property owners would be charged would change based on the value of the property.
So in order to explain that process right there, because it gets extremely complex, I did up the other page, okay? So if you guys can refer to the little Word document, it says stagnant property value example. And Denise, I put these copies up there, it's not in the board packet. Okay, so the stagnant property value example, so if you take a home valued at $250,000, with our levy that we would be going for in 2020 at the 5.7 million amount, if you look at 2020 through 2024, and you put, let's just say, a 5% inflator on property values, which is low for this area, okay, for what we've been seeing as far as the trends go and where we expect the trends to go here in the future. You put a 5% inflator across everything on the property values. By 2024, that $2.36 levy is actually $1.94. So the taxes then from 2020 on an individual basis at that 236 rate, in 2020 it would be $590. By 2024 it would be $485.39. So that's why it's stagnant, because we aren't levying at an increased property value each year. We're sticking with the 2020 valuation and applying it across all 4 years, regardless of what the property value does in the 4th year.
So question
go ahead.
Just to clarify the number on your stagnant property value example, when it had the taxes assessed line, which is the 2020 to 2024, is that rate being applied to the new value each year that you've calculated, or is that rate being applied to the $250,000?
The 250. It shows what the actual 250,000 is.
Okay, that's
Yep.
an important thing to know.
Yep, exactly. So, and this is what we saw happen to our last levy. Like right now, it's like $1.99 and some change. They rounded up to $2 is what they're technically, what I will be certifying here before the end of this month. But, so we're certifying right at the $2 range for a levy that originally 4 years ago was actually $2.36, because it was stagnant, because it wasn't built to increase with increased property values, it decreased. And so we would see the same with this levy over the course of 4 years. As property values increase, the amount per thousand would then decrease. And then what I turned around and did is I talked to our surrounding school districts this morning, regarding what they have levied here recently, what their plans are as far as what they're levying, and where they're currently at for all levies. So this is not just their EP&O levy, which is what our resolution is for, but this includes their debt service levies, their capital projects levies, their tech levies, and any bond payments that they have out there, okay? So the total levy rate for everything that they're currently levying for 2020 is shown there on the right-hand side of the page. I sorted it smallest to largest at this point. One of the things that is key to note here is the regionalization factor. One of the things that I was seeing when I was making the calls and getting this information is the districts that had higher regionalization factors had lower local levies, okay, because they're receiving more funding from the state. Our Mason County districts that receive 0, they had the highest levy rates, but they're collecting the least amount from the state. Peninsula School District, that one was a tad bit difficult. They're currently going out for an EP&O levy at $1.50 per thousand, which is the old cap, okay? But they just passed a $199 million.
199 million bond.
Yes, which equates to $2.80 some odd cents per thousand that they're already assessing to their taxpayers to pay that bond. So hence the reason why they're staying at $1.50 for their EP&O levy. The other districts, like Central, for example, they're currently at $1.50 for their EP&O levy, but they went out for levy when there was still the $1.50 cap, and they had to roll back and levy only at $1.50. When I talked to the finance director out there, they stated that because they had originally gone out for that 4-year levy at the $1.50 rate, they didn't feel it was fair to their community to go out and do what the state is considering a piggyback levy on that $1.50. They actually granted those districts who approved levies within the last year when we were capped at $1.50. They approved them the ability to go out and re-levy for EP&O to increase that $1.50 to $2.50 if they wanted. Like Central has decided not to do that because they already made a promise to their community to only do the $1.50, and as you can see with everything else that they have, they're already at $2.98. Bremerton School District is currently in the process of running a February 2020 levy as well. They have gone about it in a different way as well. They are doing their EP&O levy only at $1.50 per thousand, but they've decided to run a capital levy for $1.67. And so that capital levy is replacing a capital, tech, and bond that's expiring this year. So they decided to wrap them all up into a capital levy, keep an EP&O levy at $1.50, up everything else, and do $1.67 for it all. So as I was
So
talking,
that total is
so
317.
Yeah, so Bremerton's at 315. Yeah, South Kitsap currently is at 316. North Kitsap, I talked to the finance director at North Kitsap. They're at the lowest at 243. And when I was talking to him, he stated that if he had a magic 8 ball and could go back in the future, he personally, for his district, would not have done a stagnant levy, because that's why they're sitting at 243 right now. They decided to keep it the same for the 4 years. Their property values went way up, and so what they're collecting now has gone way down. And so technically they're only collecting $2.43 per thousand at this point, and they're stuck with that until for at least another 2 years. So that's what it was looking at, or what I was looking at when I was talking to the other districts to sort of determine what was going on. A majority of the Kitsap County districts, they were at $1.50 for their EP&O because they had run the levies when the cap was $1.50. The other districts that did have the capacity to go up to $2.50, they're currently sitting at $2.50, but they had to be rolled back to $2.50. So there's a culmination of multiple factors here at play.
Is our 283, that includes the bond and the levy?
That would be for the year 2020, because we're rolling back on the bond for 2020.
Okay.
So then what happens on the other document that is in the board packet, so when we're looking at this one, technically our amount for 2020, if we were not to have rolled back our debt service, it would have been 84 cents per thousand for just the debt service side. What we're doing now is we're rolling back that 36 cents it brings our amount levied for the debt service fund down to 48 cents. Now, in subsequent years, it is possible for us to do some type of rollback, but I can't tell you what that would be right now. It would be based upon the amount of property taxes collected in 2020, so I know what to roll back for 2021. So let's say there was no rollback whatsoever, just assuming worst case, that's where you see the 82 cents, 81, 79 cents, 77. So I took our payments in those subsequent years that we need to make on the bond, and I took the per thousand, calculated that out, and then added it into what our collection would be at that time. So, and this paper is assuming only a 1% property inflator each year. So,
And then also, it's very possible that the board will be considering a refinance on our bond, which would bring the cost to our taxpayers down in the next few months.
yeah, we have a meeting on the 26th to discuss that. So the debt service side, there's a lot of things at play right there, and so trying to forecast out what exactly it would be in the future is hard to do so. We earn interest, and we also get those state forest dollars that go into that fund that can also be used to help pay down the bond if that was the decision made to do so. So we have that at play there. If, assuming property values did not increase very much at all, that's that total amount levied per year on this document that looks like this. Worst case scenario, what we would be looking at is 283 in 2020, then it would go to 318, 314, 310, 309 by 2024. So, and that's assuming property values increase at 1% a year. So, that's that information. Do you guys have any questions? It's, I know there's a lot going on here with calculations and everything.
Why could anyone object to this?
Why would anyone object to
Yeah.
that? So here, the big reason why we would hear objections is because of information that's been passed on from the state that school districts are currently fully funded. Therefore, why would we need to go to our community and levy the community if we're being fully funded? Unfortunately, the funding model that's being used is so outdated that it's not actually fully funding what our needs are here. On top of that, there's inequities that have been posed by giving other districts higher regionalization amounts, and district like North Mason only 6%, that causes inequities when it comes to just being able to pay the bills and keep the lights on. Our utilities are still the same cost as what they're paying there, but we get less money to pay them.
So I would begin by saying, things are not as even as they seem.
No, they're
No,
not.
And
and
then, oh, go ahead.
I think it's really important to look at some very specific examples.
Yeah.
For example, if we look at custodial services, that, you know, when the state fully funds a district, they're funding what they developed in the 1970s called the prototypical funding model, based on what they determined at that time was the amount of staff you needed to serve at 400 kids per building school, basically, and at different grade levels. So according to that model, for the whole district, we need 6 or 7
Total.
custodians
For all of our buildings.
You know, we wouldn't be able to empty the garbages in the classroom and clean the toilets every night if we only had 6 custodians for the whole district.
Well,
So
and also IT funding is based
Exactly,
off
IT.
1970s.
Yep.
IT, we wouldn't even have one whole employee in that department.
Yeah.
So that it's a fallacy for them to tell everyone that we fully funded with the McClary fix. We funded more than they had funded in the past, but they didn't pay for all the things that need to happen for kids in schools. So they left us still needing to ask our communities for more money through a levy.
Well, and then, for example, transportation. So by law, we are only required to transport students with an IEP, special needs students, okay? So all of the other funding, or all of the other transportation we do, to from transportation, technically that's not considered a requirement. So we have a very diverse boundary for a school district compared to some of our other areas, as far as our square mileage goes. Our transportation costs are very staggering, when you look at other districts where they have like a 5-mile square radius, and they can transport all their students with half the fleet that we need to transport ours. So we see higher transportation costs, which still are not fully funded. And we have, because of our diverse population, last year alone, we spent $80,000 transporting students who were considered homeless or foster students. And this isn't money that we get funded for.
So what she's talking about, if you don't understand, is under McKinney-Vento, the federal law protecting homeless
Yeah,
students
sure,
and
sure.
foster kids. If their place where they're staying or living changes, they get to stay at the school where they started. And so then it's our job to go get them, whether they're now living in Bremerton or
Olympia.
Shelton or Olympia, and bring them to school. And so it's to maintain some normalcy in kids' lives.
Yeah,
And
sure.
it's not a bad idea, but it is a very expensive idea that the state wrote a law for as far as how we do transportation, but again, didn't fund that piece. So.
This sounds to me very much like the things we were been arguing before the legislature for the last several years about why we come out. I mean, the bus one's kind of
Yeah.
our classic poster child. There are a number of things where we are not, where the needs of our district are not adequately figured in by the state formula. And as a result of that, we come up short, hence our asking you for this minimal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to integrate some of the things we've been doing in the last several
Yeah.
years with the
Another-
proposition before us.
And another big thing that we've seen this year, and that's having a really big impact on a school district operation statewide, has been the increase to minimum wage. The state minimum wage increases again in January. Well, what we've seen with the increase is everything, all of our costs are obviously increasing. So utilities, we've gotten hit pretty hard with increased utility costs. This last year, normally you can budget about 3% for an increased utility from one year to the next. This year, we averaged 8 to 10% across the board. We're talking not only electricity, but recycling, garbage, everything. So when you're dealing with a large chunk of your money that goes just to keep the lights on and do recycling and trash and everything, and you're seeing an 8 to 10% increase from one year to the next, that's a lot to absorb here when we have so many other costs. So there's been quite a few things, along with other state mandated, unfunded mandates that we've been having to absorb as well.
And
So
employee benefits, that impacted as well.
that is a huge impact. Now, what I can say at a district level, we were really, really, really good about just going through absolutely everything as far as employee hours and how can we, stack positions to ensure that, the money going out for the benefits isn't over the top and everything, and trying to cut the costs where we can. But when we're looking at $1,000 a month per employee and they're only funding what's in that prototypical model, the costs are very high.
You asked earlier what questions we would have. I think I understand the process of, 283, 216, all that sort of stuff pretty well. And so I'm not asking for an answer, I just want to present something that you already know, and I think we all do it as well. When I talk to community members who are asking me about the levy stuff, which isn't very often because they don't ask me that often, but when I do, most often they don't get how this works. I think I understand how it works. Property taxes go up, but it may not go up for you. They may go up, or your property valuations go up for some, not for others. That makes it so much more complex than being able to say it as simply as you did here. And that's the hard part, trying to get that message to the people who are asking about that, because it seems like no matter how much I try, and I think I understand it really well, they don't get it. It's too complex. They get stuck on, well, if my evaluation goes up, damn that assessor and all that sort of stuff, then I'm going to be, anyway, so I'm just throwing that out at you. You know this already,
Yeah.
but that's the conversation I mostly have with anybody in our public.
Yeah.
Again, a few people a year, but still, that's what I'm hearing and getting, and it's very difficult to get people to understand how that works.
Yeah.
Because they just don't get it. It's difficult math.
Exactly. Well, and I actually called and talked to an individual over at the county assessor's office because when I got our property valuation, it had increased much more than what we had anticipated. And then you start hearing everybody talk about getting their property valuations in, and you started hearing about these large increases. And so when I had called them and they explained to me how they went about going and doing the property valuations this year, there were sections that, you know, people from the assessor's office actually went out and looked at the place and did the valuation and sent it in. There were other sections, neighborhoods, areas, that they just put formulas against. And so we have large sections in our community that received 23% valuations if they were near or on water. So they have received 23% increases to their property valuation. So when we're looking at everything that these documents have are based on, it's all based off this assumption that, you know, the assessor sends out, this is going to be your property valuation. Now, community members have until the 21st of this month, I believe it is, to appeal their property valuations. So that's also another thing at play right now. So we're approving based upon what we feel is this higher property valuation. Those appeals that go in and get approved will lower the overall valuation, and then we would be collecting.
That's kind of a big assumption on if any of that moves. I mean, that's a,
Yeah,
that's a crapshoot.
it is, and I've talked to realtors, and my conversations with the realtors based upon the information they've been receiving from the community as far as appeals go, is where I'm getting that information on. It's not just technically a what if, but
No,
yeah.
right, but even then, I mean, it still goes through the Board of Equalization, and it's,
Yep,
I
so,
mean-
yeah, and I try to forecast for any of these possibilities, because this is, when we do this, obviously, we're setting something in stone for 4 years, and so we wanna take all of these items into account when we're doing it. So making the calls, asking the questions, getting the information doesn't hurt, and then just putting all the pieces in play and seeing where we land at that, so.
okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but I do, I am concerned that it is what you call a stagnant
Mhm.
amount, and it's not gonna change
Yeah.
for us, to be able to collect a particular amount,
Mhm.
exactly the same amount, every year for 4 years, because everything goes up, and
Mhm.
we all know that. And I guess, when I first got this information, I thought, well, geez, 236, why don't we just knock a dime off, and 226 would maybe be more palatable to our community. And I'm always thinking from that viewpoint is,
Mhm.
what is the community going to accept, and how will they understand how we use all of this money? When we went down to the Tahuya Community Club, Dana gave a very clear picture of where we're spending our money, and it was well received. And when I, at the end, sort of threw out the fact that we really do need to go back for another levy, it expires next year, they were very receptive.
Mhm.
And that wasn't even talking about dollars or
Yeah.
cents or anything, but they got it based on the programs that we're trying to give our students, and the, I guess, the enriched programs as well, to give them a leg up. I mean,
Exactly.
we need to do that. So, you know, as you gave your presentation, as I look at this, I'm not as inclined to say let's knock a dime off, because it's going to remain the same for 4 years, and we may find during that time that we will have to really pinch pennies if the prices go up
Yes.
on everything.
For that same reason, I know we don't have a motion yet on that resolution, but I won't support that resolution.
Okay.
Having it stagnated, in my opinion, is sort of short-sighted in the fact that come 2024, you now have to, just to get back to where we are, is a 42-cent raise, as opposed to if we are looking at what's predicted, perhaps just a 5-cent raise.
Well, and you can change the resolution up until you vote for it. So we can handwrite on
Okay.
here
That's
anything
good.
else we want to
Yep.
do.
I mean, if
And
the other
we are
board
kind of in a
members,
bind if we're gonna get on the February ballot. We do have to
It
approve
needs to
a
happen
resolution tonight, but whether it has to be these amounts or not is up to you all.
well, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little liberty as being the chair and ask for, we do have a recommendation for a action tonight for a resolution. Just don't go far.
I'm just gonna go
Okay.
right to it. Okay.
What, can I just interrupt real quick? Would it be that difficult to leave it at 236 for all of these extended years out to 2024? And let us know what those numbers would be that we would be collecting?
No, it's not difficult at all. I just need to go get my laptop, that's it. It's all already in an Excel.
Would that be
form.
acceptable?
Yeah, but what I would like to do is open up the motion. That way we can actually discuss
Okay.
having a resolution and then come to some sort of decision.
Well,
Or come to a decision.
I move that we approve this resolution with the amendment of the numbers in it. Does that make sense?
Why don't we just approve the motion and then debate it?
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a motion.
Approval will be with the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll have discussion on this. So currently, what the resolution 16-G-19 is before us, a resolution of the Board of Directors of North Mason School District Number 403, Mason, Kitsap Counties, Washington, providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the district at a special election to be held therein on February 11, 2020, of the proposition of whether excess taxes should be levied of $5,758,086.00 in 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Said excess taxes to pay part of the educational support and operations support of the district. With that, let's have some discussion about this, because it's huge.
So that's Laura's motion or what?
That's Laura's motion. Me personally, I would be inclined to vote no on the stagnated levy, because in just looking at the flow analytics with regards to possible enrollment going up 10% in that same time frame, I don't think it leaves us wiggle room. And I think with having, if you think out long-term with those rates and how they decline at a stagnated levy, when 24 comes around, we're having to put this out to go to renew in 2025. Depending on what state actions happen to that time, maybe we are blessed with a higher regionalization level, but there's so many unknowns, especially with the, in my opinion, the ramifications of McCleary, that I think having that set amount dropping as much as it does, and then coming back to the voters with potentially a very large increase, to me it's not that long-term thinking. If we are to take a set rate saying 236, this is good for us, and it provides funding for long-term projects that extend beyond the levy. And then in four years, and we would like to renew that, I think 5 cents is a lot more, I could stomach that sort of increase a lot more than 42 cents. I'm really looking into it. I mean, that's a big jump in your collection amount.
Well, and I hadn't seen this little graph here before it was put in front of us, and I had no idea that it would reduce that amount in 4 years' time, all the way down to $1.94. And I feel like if we leave it at 236 per year, our community can count on 236. This is what I agreed to pay. I will pay this, rather than, oh, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down, and then we have to come back in 2024 when our levy is expiring and say there's no way that we can run the school district at that rate.
Right.
So.
And then they're like, well, what did you guys do wrong?
Yeah. So I feel like it would be more prudent to, rather than having the same amount collected for 4 years, because I don't know about you guys, but nothing in my house has remained the same in 4 years in terms of financial burden.
Buying power.
Yeah. So I think if that is a graduated rate, we are accounting for all of those other issues that come up in the school district that require more money. We know that we're going to have to pour more money into technology. We'd like to put a computer in every kid's hand to be able to take home. We have to find out how we're gonna be able to do that with the current budget. There's not a lot of room. So this would give us more room, and it would also give our students more learning power in their own hands. So, I don't know, that's just my thought.
I'm in agreement with some sort of a graduated amount. I'm also seeing, you know, our projections for enrollment that's steep going up, and that means that these dollars are not gonna cut it.
Go
Even
as
if,
far.
if they cut it now, they're not gonna cut it next year,
No.
because of the enrollment increases that we're seeing. And that doesn't mean we're getting more because of more kids. We're getting more of the McCleary stuff. That's all the basic student thing, but all the extra stuff we're not getting it for. So is it possible to, and I'm just throwing this out for thinking purposes, we have it saying 5.75 million for each of the 4 years. Can we say 5.75 million for this year, 6 million for next year, 6.2 and 6.4?
Yes.
Those are just wild guesses here.
Yeah, you can set
Okay, we can do
numbers
that.
like that, or
Right.
percentage
I can back into
increases.
it anyway, it's just.
My fear with doing that, Art, is now we also have the caps of the levy rates that we can do. And
Yeah.
what that does. So if we say we wanna do 6.4, and for whatever reason,
I don't think we'll get close to those caps.
We're too far away.
but if something happens, what if we hit recession and it pings us to the top? That's why if we stay with a specific rate, like what you're saying, whether we allow it to just go down and do the 1% tax.
Whatever the rate will drive
Right.
for us.
I would rather stick with a rate rather
So
than a
like
dollar
saying
amount.
236 and 240 and 250 or something?
No, I'm
No,
saying
just-
236.
236 all the way through 2024.
Which is gonna give us the same as
Which
5.75 million.
Ashley would have to kind of project
Yeah.
what the property value changes would be for each of those years times the 236, which would give us the $1 million amount, because the amount that actually goes on the ballot that is required is that total dollar amount. And so, like, for example, the calculations that are in the board report that she ran as of for 2021, based on these projections, if we were at the maximum of 250 per thousand that is allowed to districts our size, then the collection would be almost 6.1 million. So it would depend, but right now, unless the legislature does something different, we can't go over that 250 per thousand of
Right.
assessed valuation. But the total assessed valuation for the district could change if more houses or businesses are built and there is more value in the district.
Unless there is a recession, values tank. All that happens is in November, when I certify our levy, I roll it back. Okay, so worst case scenario, if something were to happen, we have to stay at our 250 cap. So if the values increase, or the values decrease, so our point per thousand then increases, I roll back with the county and we only collect at that 250 mark,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's that bank capacity.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
and I can make any changes, I've already put this all into Excel. The only
Okay.
items that I would need is I would need what you want the inflationary factor to be for property values.
What did you use already?
I used two different ones, I used one at 1%, I used one at 5%. I have some districts stating that they, are gonna be using 10%, it's completely up to,
What's a safe number?
I wouldn't feel comfortable going more than 5, just because I feel 5 is, it's conservative without being overly conservative. I do think property values from year to year are likely to increase probably more than 5%. I don't think we'll be seeing a consistent 10% every year though, but if you do 5% over the course of the 4 years, and you're saying 20% between now and the end of 4 years from now, I feel that's consistent and conservative.
And I see that as, you know, as more people are moving into the area, that just expands that pool of where we're driving from. That's what drives down
That
the
rate.
236 rate,
Mhm.
so that, you know, we would see 194, or whatever it is that was projected. And that means that there's more room.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that we're gonna have that growth.
Mhm.
Some sort of, you know, I can't predict the percentage. So I like the percentage idea, and graduated it maybe each year, however that works. But I just don't see, you know, a recession coming in. Well, you know, nobody has the crystal ball.
Right.
But I see we're getting recession regardless. People are gonna be coming in this area in the next 4 years.
Well,
And that's going to expand the pool in any case, and that, trying to build something in like a graduated thing is going to help accommodate that for us better.
I think having a consistent, steady rate is best for public and best for us.
I do
that's-
too.
it's-
So what do you guys think about, if you look at 2021 here, the rate is at $2.25 to bring us 5,758,000. If we were to agree that 225 consistently through the end of the levy, and she could figure out what that would bring us, that 225 is a little bit of a break for the taxpayers.
On this spreadsheet, you guys, the inflationary factor is 1%.
Okay.
It's what, how?
1%.
1%.
Which is extremely low, but this one wasn't this one was for stagnant. This wasn't one to show increased valuations, because this district historically has gone with stagnant, which is why I wrote it as a stagnant resolution. So this would be the first time that we've taken a different approach to doing this. So this one was, that paper right there is stagnant. So I can put an inflationary factor of 5, print it off so you can see what those numbers would look
Okay.
like. Or any other
I
inflationary
think
factor.
my only concern with that, Laura, is I think if we, even splitting the difference, saying 230, I think it allows us a little bit of capacity to make some long-term investments into some, whether it's curriculum or some sort of operational, that will go beyond, this levy rate now. It provides that excess, yeah, it's more than we absolutely possibly need to run the district, but like we said, we can allow for some IT curriculum replacements at 226, but if we go just a little bit higher, maybe there's something down the road, that an unforeseen thing that we can, this is something that will positively affect student outcomes, that will go beyond 2024, and I think it just gives us that little bit of breathing room to do that.
Yeah, I think the important thing is to, with respect to, we're custodians, and our job is, as best we humanly can, to see really, as best we really can, where things are going. And just these last several years having, been one, we've all been in on this going to the legislature, we kind of get a feel for where the legislature is short in funding and where our needs are, in part, where we're short-changed is stagnant. The bus thing, you could predict it's the bus thing. And there's some other, and the route, and then there are other things like that show up year after year, plus the unforeseen factors, plus the idea that I think we have a commitment to moving this district forward. And if we could have something that, as Craig was saying, gives us that possibility of an edge, taking advantage of an opportunity, and not just, breaking even or whatever, enough that is so that we can be prudently dynamic. Some way in which we're prudent, but in our idea of prudence, we are equipped to take advantage of what is needed for our students, and that oftentimes means more than we have guessed.
Conservative budgeting has led us to, this is legitimately a good problem to have. We can operate without being, you look at some of our neighbors at 437, 414 per thousand. Even going to where we're at today, the 236, or what was previously authorized, we're still with our neighbors. We're still right there with our neighbors, and we have less regionalization. So I think that we've done well with the 4 of you. I've only been on the board a little bit, but done well to put us at this point where we can still say we're well below the rate. We're still at best average rate. And we're now able to make some investments in different programs that beforehand we had to defer, or we chose not to, just to ensure that, you know, we could operate and nothing fancy.
I think that we can make a very reasonable case on this basis, in the basis of what I heard, translating it into, oh, this pitch sounds very, you know, this approach sounds very familiar to me, because we've been asking for certain kinds of funding for a long time. Well, guess what? We didn't get it all, and we have to figure that in. And so I think that if we can arrive at a figure that is prudent, in line with our neighbors, even on the low end of alignment with our neighbors, and has a sharp eye out for what what this school district needs to stay on top. We've moved ahead in these last several years. And I think expenses for curricula, technology, et cetera, these things are really important to run a first-class school these days. So if we could come in with a figure that's conservative, but opportunistic in the best sense of the term, I think that's something we could support.
Ashley's refining some numbers for you on some of the things you've talked about, and we'll have those in just a second.
Okay.
Right, I'm hearing from all of us, except Leanne hasn't said anything.
Yeah, I was
You're
gonna
not
just
giving
ask
us any,
Leanna to make a-
you're not making any bad noises or.
No, you guys
faces.
never stop talking, I guess.
And what I'm hearing is nobody's opposed to the general idea of trying to figure out something that's maybe graduated in some fashion. So it's really a matter of how we're gonna figure out the graduation. I'm not gonna get hung up on whether it's 236 or if it's 7 million or whatever. I wanna see something happen, and I'll go along with whatever we come up with.
I like the 236. I think that's reasonable. And I think what's important is that we communicate to the fullest the reasons why that we've chosen this, and communicating with the community, so it's not just like, hey, we just chose 236 because we did. You know, it's just like, this is why, and over educating our community before it comes, so it's not just on a pamphlet that they read a paragraph and go, whatever, and that people that don't pay attention and go, what do I do? You know, who's voting this? You know, what am I gonna do with this? I want people to know why they're voting for it. So, and I want us to shove it in their face and tell them why they're voting for it and why it's good. A lot, you know, before it even comes there. So whatever we choose, and like I said, the 236, I'm good there. But I think we should really get it out
Well,
there.
and thank you for that. And I think too that having the graduated amount gives us potential that we didn't have before. For instance, I'd love to see foreign language K-12. There are a lot of really good things that we could do if we had the funding capacity to do it. I'd also like to see performing arts in the elementary school, but that's just one other thing.
Oh,
that
me
I'd
too.
like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I throw in one other little?
Yeah,
add
please.
that? One of the other things to keep in mind through this process is that the legislature caps us at two different numbers, okay? So it's the 250 per thousand or the 2,500 per FTE, whichever is lesser.
Less, right.
So, in some of these instances, based upon our enrollment, if our enrollment continues to grow, the rate that we select would likely be the lesser rate. But if our enrollment, let's say, doesn't grow, then maybe we would end up having to switch over to the 2,500 per thousand. That's something that I do with the county when I certify our levy. You have to certify it on either end. So if our enrollment grows to, let's say, 2,500 students, or sorry, 3,500 students, we're not going that far backwards, by the end of 2024, we technically, our state cap for the 2,500 per student would put us at about 8.7 million. So that's something to keep in mind when we're looking at these numbers, if we're doing a graduated amount versus a stagnant amount.
What is that point where, is it that, you said 3,500 students?
Yeah, if we were at
That's,
3,500 students.
what's our FTE count to get to revert back to per student versus per thousand? Do you know?
It depends on a bunch of different factors that are levy based.
Would it be
because,
significant either way?
if we get to,
Which is another inequality the state.
correct.
Yes, it is.
And because that's something that, we're really close either way, like right now. If we were to, like right now, our approved levy for 2020 technically is 4.6 million. If we were to collect on the 2,500 per FTE, that would get us 5.2 million. And so we don't have a huge swing right there. We're talking less than $500,000, which for a school district is not a large swing. So if our enrollment continues to increase at the rate though that it has been increasing and the rate that it's forecasted to continue to increase, we won't necessarily deal with that issue. But if we do get to an enrollment lull and we don't see that large of an increase, then for temporary purposes, our levy could revert to a 2,500 per FTE levy instead of a point per thousand, like the 250 per thousand. So
But it tends to be smaller districts get at that 2,500
Yeah.
per
Right.
student.
I guess my question on that one is, I understand it year to year, but what if we found in 2023, just to throw out a number, that we hit that threshold? Is that going to be a significant reduction?
no.
No, it would
be a
probably-
swap in methodology.
Okay, so
Like-
at the very least, we'd be whole.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, like Ashley just said, in which year did you say it would be 8 million something?
If by
We hit
2024,
3,500.
yeah.
Yeah, if we hit 3,500, we'd be at 8 million something at the 2,500 per student, and that's not, we're not anywhere close to that on
Yeah.
anything we're thinking about asking for, so.
Here's
Just-
new numbers.
New numbers.
So this is, so,
Thank your assistant for getting this for us.
yeah, no problem. So this is graduated. So when you're looking at this, okay, this assumes a 5% inflationary factor. So if you go to like the 226, 236 line item, and you follow straight across, that's how the resolution would be written. So it would start in that 2021 year, because technically that's our first year, and then you go across the board. So in 2021, let's say it was at 226, you'd have a 5.7 million, but in 2022 it would go up to a 6,019,000, then 6.3 million, then in the last year it would be 6.6. So that's how the graduated levy would work.
Oh, I see. So you've given us the prices per thousand,
And
and
then
you,
broke it down underneath if
Okay,
it was
gotcha.
right now, because we're at
Gotcha.
199.
Yeah, so the 2020.
That 236.
But either way, I mean, it's still that rate drops it pretty, I mean, it's not as significant as going 42 cents, but it's still a drop.
it'll still drop a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll give us the capacity over the
Right.
4-year period that we don't have with a stagnant
Yeah.
levy.
Well,
And this is based
I'd
on, you
like to
said
amend my
5%.
motion.
That's a
I was gonna
5%
friendly
property
amendment. I was gonna amend.
inflator.
I want to amend my own motion.
It makes me feel like there's breathing room
Yeah.
instead of,
If you'd like to
let's hold
amend-
our breath.
I'll accept your amendment to your
Okay.
motion.
Well, all right, I would
Motion
like,
is just- never mind.
I'd like to amend my motion to accept the graduated levy collections defined here at the 236 per thousand level. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's,
So if I may clarify, the language in the resolution will be 236 per it'll be this 5 million
701.
in 2020, and then will
5.9.
you list the 5% with a 5% inflator, or will you list the different dollar
So it
amount
will
for
show
each year?
236 across all 4 of the bullet areas. Then, the only part that's gonna change is the dollar value will change in each of the subsequent years. So for like in 2020, you're using those assessed values to collect for 2021. So it would say 236 per thousand to provide, and then in 2021, that would be $5,986,128. And then in the subsequent year, that would be $6,285,435, $6,599,706, and then $6,929,692.
So that would be what the resolution would say.
Correct.
Got it.
So, okay, I've amended my motion. Now I'd like to ask our levy chairman, who happens to be here tonight, Jean Johnson. Thank you for doing that.
And Dan.
And Dan King, co-chairman. What do you think?
236 is what we had discussed, recommending, definitely. I agree with everyone on the board. I don't think having a stagnant level is in our best interest at all.
Okay.
Everything goes up.
Okay.
Having
Dan?
a little bit extra and if values actually do go up, you do collect more money, you have money for performing arts. Language in K-12, I love it, I love it.
Okay, great.
Being able to buy some more band instruments, love it.
Yeah,
Some of the things, in general, this is just my soapbox for a second, since you asked me. No one likes to pay taxes, but that 10 cents per thousand is $40 to me, or $45 a year. I mean, everyone hates bad roads, everyone hates a bad police force, but they all take money. Good schools take money. I applaud the fact that you guys have gone along so long with as little as money as you have, but I think we have brand new schools. I think the community's behind us.
okay, good. What do you think, Dan?
Well, again, I concur, and I really think what Leanna said about, we really do have to very thoroughly and carefully explain why and communicate that out very well to the community, because although it's $40, I don't know if people are really doing the math, they're just thinking about increasing, property taxes. So I think our community really supports our schools. We've seen that over and over again with some of the fundraisers we've done, boosters and things like that, raising money for camp. The community really does want to support us. But I think it is really important that we communicate the why and what it's for. And I think as we proceed, we have the right people on board doing the work that will help us communicate that out very well.
I think a strong talking point on that is the rate is still what was previously authorized. The dollars amount has changed, but so has the environment of which we're operating as well. But having that, I said, we, compared to our neighbors, and it's all because of conservative budgeting over the last few years that we're in this position where we can still be, in my opinion, significantly under a cap and be able to make some huge investments. Or at least, maybe not huge, but very worthwhile. That's kind of that's the reward of being conservative, in my opinion. So, so you're
I'm a little concerned about having the amendment that way. I haven't studied this parliamentary procedure that well, but I think it would be cleaner if we just simply started over. Maybe withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
And start a whole new motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, with that, are you withdrawing your amendment, or are you withdrawing?
I'm withdrawing the amendment and the motion and everything else, except all that I said.
And
Sounds good to me.
You're the parliamentarian here, is that legal?
Well, the movement was just
probably agree with it.
to approve this, and then we discussed.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of an amendment
Right.
to do, because we had already said we need to discuss it, and then we weren't approving anything at the moment, we were discussing it.
Yeah,
So
except that she has a
that's it.
motion on the floor.
So if she
that we have
withdraws
to
her
deal
motion.
with before we
Yeah.
can do something else.
Right.
And it may be better if,
Okay, so we can vote on my withdrawal?
yeah.
Okay. I'd like to withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman, President.
Okay.
And I call for the question on that.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the withdrawal of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay,
Okay, now we can start over.
so do we want to stick with, or do we have to renumber that resolution? Or
No,
can we just
because
amend
it can be this
Okay,
number,
okay.
because you haven't approved it.
With that said, as that gets done, do you two have any comments about this? This affects you guys.
Well, as
You're
you
the
guys were
end user.
talking, I just started to figure out what it actually was. So,
Any questions or any?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. This is kind of like property tax 101.
Yeah.
This is a great time in life to start paying attention to this, because I didn't when I was your age, so it was, the older I got, the less my brain was working, and I had to work harder, so, yeah.
Well, I think I could make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the new amount?
I move that we accept resolution number 16G19 with the changes of taking the dollar figures, the $5 figures that are in there, and substituting them with the $5 figures that are on this sheet under the
Okay, do you wanna do it?
236 assessed value by 1,000.
Okay.
That
And
would
just
be it.
FYI, because we've changed it from what was published, what we have to do now is Ashley's making a copy with all of those crossed out and the new numbers written in, and if that's what you approve, then that's what you'll sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I call for the question.
Okay, all those in favor of approving, let me get the,
Ashley, you
So
want to
I have it
stand
from-
right here?
16-G-9 as verbalized by Director Whiteman with a 236 per thousand of assessed value to be collected at $5.7 million in the year 2020 with the 5% escalator from that point on. Signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Done.
Not exactly what we
Did you
did.
say 9 or 19?
He did say 9, and I tried to
And it
correct it
says
as
you're
19.
19.
Yeah,
I said 19.
Do it
didn't I?
again.
he said 9.
I thought I
I
heard
said 9?
Do over.
No, what we're,
Gee, I heard
You guys
19.
need to state the specific amount, sorry.
yeah,
off
okay.
the sheet.
That I just
He has
gave
to
you.
state this,
Or
he
did
does
did
have
you
to
give
state
him the
it.
sheet? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one off there off the 236 line.
Okay, well, we got to,
Starting with 2021.
Correct.
starting with 2021?
So just read all the figures out.
2021.
For verbal record,
Okay.
right? Just
Amend the motion.
There's
Well,
no
we've
mo-
already
the
voted on it,
motion
so-
is still good. He just hasn't finished
Oh,
telling us
okay.
what we're voting on. So
Okay.
just start over.
Okay.
The motion number,
Motion number 16G19, 19, with collection at 236 per thousand in 2021 of 5.9,
It should say the whole thing.
Yeah.
986, $5,986,128.74 in 2021.
just make it count.
Do I need to do every year?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
236 cross board.
$6,285,435.18 in 2022. $6,599,706.94 in 2023. And $6,929,692.29 in 2024.
I go back and say 2020 because you didn't do that one yet.
No,
No,
2020.
That's already
No.
done.
Boom.
2020 is not part of it.
That's on the old
Sorry.
levy.
All those in favor of that language signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Okay.
Okay, can we be done with that?